What is up, guys? Today we're going to be comparing the ROG Phone 3 to the OnePlus 7 Pro. I've been really enjoying the ROG Phone 3, so that's why I wanted to do this video explaining why I was thinking about switching, but ultimately, I did not switch. And I wanted to talk about sort of, why, the decisions that was sort of going through my head here. So, price wise, if you were thinking about picking up either of these phones, I'll put the links down below. This phone is still pretty expensive. The ROG Phone 3 will cost you around 700 to 600 bucks depending on where you get it. The OnePlus 7 Pro is pretty cheap right now. Brand new, you can get one for around 400. If you want a refurbished one, you can easily find it for cheaper, around 3. I've even seen some for around like the 270, 280 price point. So again, I'll put those links down below. But as far as design wise, I still think the 7 Pro is still one of the best looking phones, especially from the front. But the ROG Phone 3 really has a unique design, especially with the LED that lights up on the back. It has sort of like that ooh ah factor. When people see your phone, they see it changing colors and stuff. It's got that sort of cool factor to it that makes it just really interesting. They're both glass and metal phones. The ROG Phone 3 is definitely way heavier than the 7 Pro, but they both have a nice premium feel. They both feel great in the hand and feel pretty comfortable in the hand as well. Again, ROG Phone 3 is thicker and definitely taller. These are both very big phones as well, so if you don't like big phones, you're not going to like either of these. And just to go over the button layout, power button, volume rocker, power button, your mute vibration switch on the 7 Pro. And then we have our volume rocker over here. And then down below, both of these phones do not have any type of headphone jack on them, unfortunately. They do have USB Type-C, and they both have single, or not single firing, but dual speakers as well, which we'll get into, which is pretty interesting as well. Now, let's talk about the display, because this is definitely a big area to consider if you're just really into smartphone displays like I am. So the 7 Pro still, to me, has one of the best displays, especially at this price point now. So it's got a Fluid AMOLED 90Hz display, HDR10+, 6.67 inches, 1440p, 516 for the PPI, full screen design, no notch, no nothing. The ROG Phone 3 has an AMOLED display, 144Hz, HDR10+. It's a 6.59 inch display. It's 1080p and 391 for the PPI. So the biggest difference here was resolution. So the OnePlus 7 Pro is a sharper display with resolution and PPI. So it just definitely looks sharper when you're looking at pretty much anything, but mostly icons. Icons just look super sharp on the 7 Pro. And you can kind of, they just don't look as sharp as on the ROG Phone 3, even though it's a very nice display. Now, one of the things about the ROG Phone 3 that I was just really amazed with was the 144 Hertz. It was the first 144 Hertz phone that, I've used, and it's just a silky, buttery experience, especially if you had downloaded like a game in 144 Hertz, you really notice it. But yeah, so there is a big difference from 90 Hertz to 144 Hertz. It just gives you that super smoothness, and it's mostly with scrolling and stuff like that. Now, to the normal person, they probably wouldn't notice, but honestly, the 144 Hertz is super buttery smooth, and it makes your phone experience feel like it's just blazing fast here, especially if you're scrolling on like Instagram or whatever. It's just a super smooth experience to just watch it just be so silky smooth. So that is one of the things I really fell in love with about this display. But the thing is that I still want a 1440p display. I still want that high PPI. I still want just everything to look really sharp. So that was one of the things I was just like, I don't think it's worth the 1440p display. I don't think it's worth losing that for 144 Hertz, even though I really like the 144 Hertz. Now let's talk about these specs. So the 7 Pro, you have Android 10 on here with Oxygen OS, Snapdragon 855, Adreno 640, no SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, 6 gigs of RAM. On the ROG Phone 3, we have Android 10 with the ROG UI, Snapdragon 865+, Adreno 650, No micro SD support as well. 128 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM. So the ROG Phone 3 is more, the more powerful experience, but I did not think it was like crazy, faster than the 7 Pro. Still, I think Oxygen OS does a really great job. And just to run you guys through like a speed test real quick, we'll just open YouTube so you can see the difference. To me, the real difference is, again, with that 1440p, not 1440p, but 144 hertz, it makes the ROG Phone 3 feel super smooth as well. But as far as like it opening applications, it's not going to be that much faster. Now, it will be able to hold more, apps in memory than the 7 Pro, but there is like an 8 gig version of the 7 Pro you can get if you want to do hardcore multitasking. But as we can see here, there's not a huge difference here when it comes to speed quality to me. And both of these phones are still very, powerful. The 7 Pro can still play the latest games at high settings. It won't be able to max like stuff out like you can on the ROG Phone 3, but it's still a very powerful phone. So they still are very competitive when it comes to gaming and just overall speed. Now, one of the things that I was really curious about ASUS is that how are they with their software? I haven't really got any kind of security patch or update with the ASUS, the ROG Phone 3. So it makes me wonder if ASUS is, how fast are they about pushing out updates now. I haven't gotten the update, the Android 11 update on the 7 Pro yet. For some reason it's coming, which I was surprised because I got it on my V60, first. So I was really like shocked at that. So I don't know what's taking so long, but yeah, I know Oneplus, they do issue out a lot of little security patches, bug fixes, and it makes me wonder, does ASUS do that as well? I haven't gotten any since I had the phone. So that was also another concern when it comes down to switching. How good is ASUS with software updates? Now, another very awesome thing about the ROG Phone 3 is the front-facing speakers. So you have two front-facing speakers right here. So the 7 Pro does have stereo speakers down here, right here, but it's really no match for the ROG Phone 3 when it comes to just the depth and overall quality here. It's really amazing. I have them both at max volume. Hopefully you can hear the difference. Start with the ROG Phone. I mean, it's just a super clear and crisp sound. You can't block the speaker since it's front facing. It is just a really nice sounding pair of speakers here. Bass quality, everything. And since it's in your face, it's just a really nice experience. Now, while the 7 Pro is very loud, it's still like it lacks the depth of bass, so I don't know how well that's going to translate. You can actually hear the 808s here super clear. So overall, you guys get it. The speaker quality is just really impressive on this phone. Now let's talk about what each phone has and does not have. So they both don't have any type of IP rating, official IP rating, even though the 7 Pro, from what I've seen on YouTube and videos and stuff, it can survive like being thrown in water and stuff like that. But the ROG Phone 3 does not have any type of IP rating from what I am seeing here. They both have in-display fingerprint sensors, which are very fast. So hopefully maybe I can get them matched up. As you guys can see, they're both very fast and very nice to use. They're not like slow at all. They both feel super fast. They both have face unlock, which you have to wait for the pop-up camera to pop up on the 7 Pro. So I guess face unlock would be faster on the ROG Phone 3. But as far as like getting into your phone or the biometrics, they're both extremely fast. So I had zero issues with that. Like I said, there's no headphone jack on either of these guys, which kind of sucks, which is something that they brought back with the latest ROG phone, but this one just does not have it. So let's go ahead and talk about the camera quality on both of these, which I'm gonna tell you off the rip, using the ROG phone, the camera quality is not where this phone shines. I feel like for the price, even though it takes great photos, to me, it's just not super competitive, especially to like newer phones. But it does take good photos. So just to go over the specs for you guys here, on the 7 Pro, you have a 48 megapixel standard, an 8 megapixel telephoto, a 16 megapixel ultra wide, you have 4K video, and you also have that pop-up selfie at 16 megapixels that shoots in 1080p. On the ROG Phone 3, you have a 64 megapixel standard, a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and a 5 megapixel macro. You actually get 8K video on the ROG Phone 3 and a 24 megapixel selfie that shoots in 1080p. Now, when you actually look at the photos, they're very close until you get to like the very like high dynamic range shots. Then you'll start to see a difference in color accuracy and detail. But these indoor shots, you can see, are very close looking. They both do a really great job. The 7 Pro does seem to like do extra like saturation and makes everything a little bit more like colorful, I guess. But as we can see here, detail, shots look really good on both. But once you get to like the outside shots, that's where I noticed the 7 Pro just had better color accuracy, dynamic range was better, and just overall detail was definitely a little better on the 7 Pro for sure here. But as we can see, very close shots, super close. So again, this phone is newer, so I expected it to just be overall better. But again, this is not the focus area of ASUS, so I wasn't really like expecting that from them. Now you also get like a macro mode on the ROG Phone 3, which the 7 Pro does not have, which I always think is really fun to play with. You can just come really close in on shots and stuff like that. It's a 5 megapixel macro. Well, let me put it down so it's not super shaky. But it's a pretty cool little camera to play with. I've always thought it was really cool to have, and it takes pretty good macro shots, so that is something that I always love to play with. Just taking really close-up shots is something that I've always liked. You get, you know, high resolution video on here as well. The selfies on both of these cameras are really good too, and overall the camera UI is pretty solid on both of these phones as well. There is a night mode on both of these phones, which honestly isn't the greatest on either one. From how long I've been using them, honestly, I just never been impressed with the night mode on either one. But for cameras and stuff like that, I do like the 7 Pro a little bit more than the ROG Phone 3 for sure here. Now I want to talk about your gaming experience. So your gaming experience is kind of unique on both. Like I was saying with the 7 Pro, it's a full screen display, so when you're playing video games, being able to play like this with no intrusion and just seeing just beautiful screen, 1440p high PPI, it is a really nice experience. So that is one of the main things. And like I said, both of these phones are very capable of playing the latest games on high settings, of course, especially the 7 Pro. Even though it's an older phone, it's still pretty much a flagship tier device here. So what makes the gaming experience pretty unique on the ROG Phone 3 is you have these air triggers on here. So if you're really into gaming, you got the air triggers on here, and you have the 1440p. I mean, not the 1440p. I don't know why I keep saying that. The 144 hertz display on here. So when you're playing games that are compatible with it, it does make a big difference in terms of your gaming. So as you can see here, I'm controlling the game with the air triggers right here, and so it's pretty cool. You can use it for shooting games or whatever. So that's sort of like that's sort of the difference. You got a super smooth display, and then you got these really cool air triggers. Alright, so let's talk about battery life, because this is super important as well. 4,000 milliamp battery on the 7 Pro, 30 watt fast charging, no wireless charging. On the ROG Phone 3, we have a massive 6,000 milliamp battery, 30 watt fast charging, reverse charging, but no wireless charging on this one either, which is strange because these are flagships. I expect them to have it. They don't, which I always thought was odd with both of these. But the ROG Phone 3 definitely kills the 7 Pro in terms of battery life. They both charge at the same speeds, which is really nice. So wireless charging isn't such a huge bummer since they do charge pretty fast. But the battery life on this phone is just crazy good on here. It's definitely one of those phones, like when you charge it up to 100, this is a phone you really don't worry about at all when it comes to battery life. My 7 Pro does a very good job with battery life. It's not a phone that I think is a bad phone when it comes to battery life. You can easily squeeze 8 hours of screen on time pretty easily on this phone. And again, they both charge really fast, but this does kill it in battery life. So if you're somebody that really hates plugging their phone up to charge a lot, this phone is really nice for that. So what do you guys think? Which one would you guys buy? And I'll catch you guys in the next one.